I've been creating pixel art for this channel for a couple of months now. And a few weeks ago I decided that it would be nice to actually use some of that pixel art for something more interactive. In other words, a game. So in this video I will show you what kind of game it is, how am I creating it, as in which software and tools do I use, and also I will show you a first playable interactive scene.
Let me see.
So the game I have in mind is in the pixel art style of a 90s classical point-and-click adventure game, with some elements of other, more recent cozy game genres added to the mix. I have not yet finalized all the details of this exact genre mix, but since the genre of point-and-click adventure game will be the main defining genre for this game idea I have in mind, I started implementing my prototype in AGS, which is Adventure Game Studio. If you have never heard of AGS, it's a free development tool for creating point-and-click adventure games, and it comes with its own scripting language, which I think should be powerful enough to implement some of the other gameplay elements I have in mind too. I have put a link to the AGS website down in the video description, so feel free to check that one out if you want to find out more about it. As for creating all the pixel art backgrounds, sprites and animations, I'm using Aseprite, which I have been using for all the pixel art that you can find on this channel so far. The first thing I did was create the main character of my game, which is this guy. And the very first animation I created for the game was the main guy's walking animation, which initially looked like this, and which I then refined to this. To create that animation, I followed the basic concepts of creating walking animations that I already showed you in another video for this medieval fantasy character. So if you want to know more about the details of that creation process, make sure to check out that one too. But back to the main guy of this game. By the way, the main guy doesn't have a name yet, so for now he's just the main guy. Anyways, so that main guy lives by himself in a remote little house surrounded by nature. So the next thing I did was create a first scene for our guy, which shows the back of his house with a fireplace where he can maybe do some outdoor cooking or relax at the fire in the evenings after a day of hard work. One thing that is interesting to mention here is that for this scene I tried to keep the walkable area of this scene as flat and 2D as possible, without the character being able to walk too far into the depth of the image. Because look, if you have a scene with a lot of perspective depth, like for example this sketch that I initially made for that scene at the front side of the house, then we would definitely have to rescale the character depending on where in the scene he is. What I mean is that if he stands here, for example, then without shrinking the character sprite, it looks completely out of proportion. At the same time, when the character is here, we'd have to enlarge the sprite a bit to match the perspective correctly. And don't get me wrong, Adventure Game Studio does support scaling the character sprite like this. And it is actually something that has been done in classical games too. But I don't find it the visually most pleasing technique for low resolution pixel art, so for now I try to avoid it by drawing my backgrounds accordingly. So now that we have the main character with a walking animation and a first background scene, it is time to put everything together in AGS and see how that looks. So as you can see, we can now make the guy walk around from the left to right, or also from the right to left. And I still need to create the animations for walking up and down, so currently he just slides up or down in its standing pose. You can also see that I added a couple of walk behind areas, which is a method in AGS to make the character disappear behind certain objects in the scene. For example, this bench or this block where the guy chops some wood for the fireplace over here. And actually, this is not really the very first scene that I created for this game prototype. Because if I make our guy walk over there, he ends up in this overview screen. And if you want to see how I created that scene, then you can find all the details in this video, and I will see you there in a bit.